go to the week set just on music services alone. So it's very in-depth. Look, got here a little late, but you never can fit 6 things into doing 5 things. It just doesn't work. So, and my day's not done. But I want to thank everybody for coming today. So that ends our presentations. Now we get part 2, which is the Q&A. So we have staff here, we have counselors here. So if there's any questions, and if you have questions after, the third part will be when the questions and answers are done, the staff and councils will stay back. If you want to do one-on-one, that's fine too. So we don't have time for that. So, are there any questions out there?
I have a question. I noticed a lot of the news reports that come in. There's an online, I forget his name now, but he reports on a lot of crime. And it seems that a lot of crime is happening in Chittenden, Minto, Casway, outside the city limits. And I'm just wondering what kind of work is being done with collaborating with maybe, criminality that's happening in those areas, but then maybe not into the city.
Okay, well, I can tell you that, but we're all going to have to keep it a secret. Nobody can leave here with this information. Even back to what we were talking about before, you should know that all 9 municipal police forces, the RCMP, Justice and Public Safety, are very, very well partnered right now. This did not happen overnight, but we have intelligence agencies, local ones, like the Criminal Intelligence Services in New Brunswick, that allow us to be intelligence-led. We have crime analysts, and a lot of them, working 24/7 to build what's called a PTA. It's essentially telling us who's up to what in the entire province. And it ties back to the integrated enforcement units that allow those units to be able to respond to some of the most prioritized issues. We also make use of other databases, leave it at that. And I can state that we are, from an MD Chief's perspective, I won't speak for public safety, I certainly won't speak for the Premier, but I'm very comfortable with what we have in place right now. I think our biggest challenge right now is legislation. It's not as easy to write an ITO information to obtain. Back when we had, well, I'll just say back when I was in drug section in the 90s, your ITOs were a couple of pages long, predominantly. Now they can be somewhere north of 60, 70 pages. And they need corroborated information from multiple sources. They need recency. These things aren't easy. This is why we need teams working together to make sure that they have the right information. So I think that's, I don't mind going a little bit further with that information. You folks have came here today to hear information. We have a very good setup in the province of Brunswick right now, so that's the intelligence led.
Question and then a comment for Chief Ford. Just on the catch and release, or we had a better term for it, but arrest and re-arrest, I think. What percentage of your force's time is dealing with that? Like, is it a rounding error, or is it an increasing amount of your workforce's time?
Well, I think it's a concern for us. It is the best way, and I don't want to make it out like it's impacting us to the point where we can't do our jobs. I don't think that's fair. But I can tell you, with the William Seafood matter and the Pavish's matter, certainly Bill C-75, that release worked for these individuals. Problematic was that with their release, other crimes were able to significantly with Fredericton and the fire with Williams and of course Pearson and Pavish's. So I think this is where it's easy perhaps to point fingers and even back what the mayor said. We're not interested in doing that. Let's put that aside. Let's work together to figure out what are the next best steps. And I know Parliament, Ms. Allen, isn't here today, but she has reached out and she has had discussions with us as a Supreme Court about what that looks like moving forward. So this is where we start, and I'm fundamentally committed to that discussion, even meeting with program operators, that can guide us, teach us as to what the potential next steps are, and that's where the task force comes into play, and hopeful that we'll have some of those answers moving forward.
My comment is we need to bail reform and we need to amend C-75. And with the Premier here today, the Minister of Social Development, the Deputy Minister for Justice and Public Safety here, we need to lean in as a province and ensure that Ottawa makes whatever reforms need to be made. For one reason, we're failing those who need help with C-75. Yes, it's a public safety issue, and crime is never good, particularly for the owners of Williams Seafood, but we're failing these people. Fundamentally, that's not what we do as a society. So, thank you for your time.
I'll just add, so what I did mention was tomorrow night at the City Council, the terms of reference and the composition, committee composition for the task force will be voted to open council to be voted on, and hopefully approved. Sitting on the task force, we had asked MP Jenica to join us in the task force, and she's most interested in being there, particularly because we know that the bill C-75 is, that is a lever that is the federal representative that she can help us to pull. So, and similarly, Mr. Miles and Michael Monsignors are also moving forward. So we are looking to have the people who can make the decisions be there at that table. So hopefully that will go through and be announced tomorrow night.
Anybody else? Oh, now I have
The presentation that was is that available on the
Because I think it's already provided through public safety, that there was, so that presentation is actually provided at the last public safety meeting, which is an open meeting. Attend our standing committee meetings. They're Thursdays at lunch. You can, if you can't get it at the time, after the fact, you can go online, you can see them. It's really where a lot of the interesting stuff happens. That presentation is given at that time, so I think the Thursday before the last, but it's still up. The presentation is still available. You can go online and access it.
Do we still pay for an armored vehicle, and if so, how much? And is maybe that's better spent?
Our deputy CEO.
We own it, but we don't pay for it anymore, it's paid for, but we do have it.
Did you hear? So we purchased that vehicle a few years back, and so we own the vehicle. So we currently do have the vehicle. Did you get a response? Sorry, I'm speaking tonight. We purchased the vehicle a few years back. I can't remember, some of my council colleagues were there at the time that was purchased, but when we do own the vehicle, and we still do have it within our possession, yes. And I can't speak to how often it's used. I think that would be a policing response.
Any other questions?
Thank you. So if I saw your presentation correctly, we're making new investments and strategies, but the stats are relatively flat and growing. So what does good look like? What metrics are we using to show improvement? What is the task force going to do? How are they going to measure improvements? So how are we going to know we're getting better?
So there is two sides to that coin. I think with the stats, I think the police force, we've said this from the very beginning, we have got to stop that perfect beginning of here. So one of the things that we are looking at is how do we, through building up our resources, get back to what that healthy, proactive component is. Even if you look at a microcosm of vehicles driving around with tinted windows. There was a time when people would not put tinted windows on because they would get stopped and receive $170.50 a ticket. So I think the resource challenges themselves, but also our methodology and how we focus on priority events, partnerships that we have in place, the stakeholders, and even building that proactive blueprint where officers can engage in self-generated enforcement, but also, level expertise like our partner violence coordinators, our community liaison officers, even getting school resource officers back into the schools. Not having these officers in the school, we're missing that opportunity to connect with the future generation. And they have an opportunity to take one path or another. In the absence of police being there and not being able to deal with things, there's a greater chance that perhaps a certain youth, that demographic, may get off on the wrong foot. As it relates to the safety task force or the community task force, this is going to start to deal with some of the outcomes that the city and municipalities are experiencing as a result of some of these socioeconomic issues. For that, I very much look forward to seeing what the options are going to be. I can't speak to that right now, but I'm certainly looking forward to it.
I have a question that relates to the nuisance bylaw and to the Safe Communities and Neighborhoods Act. And I guess other legislation for everyone provincial that's related to dealing with the problems that we have in our communities that are kind of all related and some level of degree of severity or impact that they have, the activities have. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the work in making the changes in the nuisance bylaw. That has, I think, brought some really strong attention to the problems that we have, for example, in College Hill where I live. And I was wondering if you could make some comments about how the criminal code versus the provincial legislation and the bylaws interact and how police end up deciding how to work within that framework. And I guess you probably are well aware that we have full range of activities going on in College Hill and probably elsewhere in the province and in the state. But in College Hill in particular, I'm very familiar with that. So I wonder if you could comment on how far that bylaw has been used and what the impacts might have been, and if in the future there may be further considerations for bylaws, provincial acts, and federal legislation being better coordinated to sort of deal with the situation that we have there, and obviously to with Bill C-75, sort of the obstacles to the policy and guidelines for implementing the different pieces of legislation. I'll just kind of leave that as a general question, but I'd really like to know, for example, even with the specifics, how the police are contacting, say, the landlords and dealing with house parties and that kind of thing, kind of disturbances that we all familiar with.
So there was a lot. I think just very quickly, I'll speak to you mentioned safer communities and neighborhoods. So the SCAN program with public safety, a very strong partner with all municipal police forces. They have a specific use, both in the proactive form, but also a component tied to when the police forces visit the house, especially if they see them barricaded. So there's a lot of application for SCAN. I don't know, Deputy, if you want to mention anything more about that.
Sure. About 300 properties across the province. I'm sorry, the number locally is not coming to my mind, but about 300 properties across the province over the last 2 years have been closed, and the tenants removed, usually their tenants, in these situations. What this is for is properties that are habitually used for certain kinds of crime. Predominantly, as the chief has said, they're drug houses. Our officers are not police officers. They're not collecting evidence that leads to charges. They're, first of all, collaborating with police to see what they know about property that people have complained about, property. We've been watching it for off and on for 4 weeks. Here's a video, and here's a list of the things that we've seen. We're inclined to go and get the property shut down, but we give you a chance to figure it out yourself. And in that way, be able to deal with properties that are affecting the sense of safety in a neighborhood or a community. It isn't for every nuisance in a house. So, for example, people are having a lot of parties. That's not going to be the threshold. It's houses, it's after-hour bars. There's a specific list of things in the legislation. And it's meant to be a complement to police work. So, the place where people go to buy small quantities of drugs is almost certainly hardly ever going to get to the point where police collect enough evidence to charge somebody criminally and make the problem go away. As it happens, over the 20 years this thing has been in effect, we've had like 3 repeat complaints in 20 years. When the officers go and someone gets moved along, they have to go voluntarily because they get scared. The landlord moves along for the court order the place closed. It is a function of human nature that those people are either getting out of business or they're going much lower profile, where they're not affecting their neighbors in the way that they work. So that is what SCAN is about. It can free up police officers to deal with more immediate level 1 emergent events most of their time, and when they have the ability to collect evidence on the bigger players in our drug business, this is just something that does its own little piece to make communities a little bit safer. Thanks for the opportunity.
That's good. Thanks, Deputy. Just to follow up on your remaining piece there, the federal statutes, that's going to be defined largely, obviously, by the code. Statutes, again, we have an excellent open door communication with the province through Indian chiefs, which include the RCMP and JPS. So, any amendments to the Motor Vehicle Act or the Trespass Act, that dialogue has and continues to be. Lots of provincial initiatives with the IU, the Integrated Enforcement Unit, but that's more to include our disposal unit, and we're now working, see the Fredericton's working on a joint forces with the RCMP with our police service dog. So what we follow, and I don't want to get ahead of where partnerships we might build Premier, but Tech Prime, perhaps Friends and Firearms down the road. Tying off from your last piece as it relates to municipal bylaws, the CAO had us into his office following the last homecoming. I'd say we had a robust discussion, and we left there. The CAO made it clear that we need to do just a little bit better next time. And I have been fortunate enough to join. Where's Councillor Green? There she is. My apologies, Councillor. What's the name of your committee?
Community Goal Secondary Relation.
So I was received an invitation. We met, and we really started to talk about how we can work with not only UNB and Stu, but the student union officials. There was some wonderful, nice young representation there of Stu and the UNB presidents. And I think we're going to be putting together a very robust operational response that is going to really improve our chances to respond better next year to this. But it's going to take a lot of stakeholders working together, but I believe that's absolutely possible, and I'm looking forward to this. Does that help?
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to add to them folks, I also live in the group, and this last homecoming, this is what we want to take, because I've been there for almost 3 years now. I wasn't there, I went somewhere else. When I came home, the officers didn't let me go to my house, because there was a car. So my question is, who are they protecting? I couldn't get with my car into my car, because there were people parking. So, my point of view is, if I cannot go to my place because there is a party, next year we should prevent them to enter Hanson Street or Brandon or Windsor instead of me going to my house.
We can't have people adversely impacting their quality of life. It's a community, and yes, there's opportunity for people to live, have fun, but it can't be such that it's going to impact somebody's quality of life. I've heard many statements such as this, and I'm comfortable, again, I'm never confident, but comfortable saying that when we run up against this, already discussions or plans are being put into place. I never make promises or guarantees about anything, but I can tell you we're not going to have similar to comments. It's not going to happen. We have very good people guiding us and meeting with us and telling us what could be done just a bit better tomorrow than we've done today. And we're very much open to listening to them.
Thank you, and we appreciate all your work.
I have a question on the side of
This is a question for the fire chief. Just recently, I heard that they're implementing a downtown surveillance after hours, returning calls and so on and so forth. And I wonder if you could explain what's happening and whether or not it's able to decide whether or not it's successful or not in curtailing activities.
All right, if I understand the question correctly, you want to know the details of what we're doing and how we're involved into the larger effort. So as we dealt with last month, a lot of the many instances the police chief mentioned about Williams and McTavish, we were contemplating how best to respond. As opposed to police, which are patrol and response in that matter, we are strictly a response model. We look for opportunities for us to add to our presence in town. Whether it be our platoon captains who are shift captains constantly working through the 24 hours into the night, they are prioritizing taking runs downtown in the areas, both in the downtown area as well as the Main Street corridor, when opportunities present. We are ideally not looking to have big rigs running down our streets constantly on a regimented schedule, but we do respond 24/7, and we have responses that occur throughout the night. So our crews have been given direction that once they're done with the call, sometimes it's our rescue who goes to a medical call or alarm call, the myriad of calls we have at the night. When they are complete that, they are to detour downtown, just to kind of take a look at the streets, see if there's anything going on, and mostly add to our presence. Because if you look at the different things we're brought forward today, whether it's a CSSU unit, or 24/7, our police, and others, then we have different vehicles and personnel that are keeping eyes on our downtown and more and more. So there are evenings, if you look, we have anywhere, like the police, we respond as groups of units to larger events. And through the presence of the overnight, we have anywhere from 1 up to 7 waves within any given time between 12 and 6 in the morning, which was identified as one of the key times that we need to get more of a presence in the downtown area. So as I said, it varies from day to day. We are making an ongoing presence. We're seeing what kind of effect it has in relation to the larger effort from all of our units, whether it's CSSU police, and then we're going to be adapting to whether it's something we continue on or if things start settling down and we see things getting a little more under control, we can back off of that. So, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, hold on, go ahead. Hold on. My question is really directed to the politicians, more directly. So Barry Wayne, you're off the hook. But it is related to what you do. Okay, so my question is, are there any thoughts towards how we publicly educate? Not just, we think about education of kids in schools, which I think is important, but also the public, all the people here like me, about what our rights are. I want to give you a little example. Roughly 2010, I found a little crystal meth, I think,
on the sidewalk in front of my house. So I have a little background in public safety. I took care of making sure it was secured, called the police, they came and picked it up, set it up, but the loop safety, you can't find that if you want to take it. 3 weeks ago, I have a small apartment building here in the downtown of the city. I live probably pretty much right in the center of the city. My wife, my mother-in-law and I were sitting in the living room, and there was a thump upstairs. And the apartment's vacant. And it was my negligence that I didn't lock the door when I walked out that day, because I was doing work there. I went up, and anyway, I had a gentleman there come in, and he lifted a couple of things I didn't realize at the time. I made a risk decision that I didn't think he was a threat. I walked him a couple of blocks away, made sure that he was out of the neighborhood, and didn't bother calling the police. Because it didn't, I saw it as a no harm, no foul. But having said that, I don't really, the answer I got from the officer in 2010, because I was dealing with people coming onto my property. If they come onto your property, you're free to go. And what I mean by that, if I decided I wanted to physically do something to that person, you probably have no. That was the response. This isn't about the police officer's response. It was an honest response at the time. In 2024, I'm less sure if somebody trespasses what I'm able to do, because the police, you've seen the statistics. There are limitations. The expectations that we have on the services that we get can't be so high that we don't think we have to do something ourselves sometimes. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm just saying what our rights are, how we can enact, and what we should expect in terms of the process, because there's a lot of bureaucracy in things, and it does take time to get certain things done. So I guess my question to politicians is, how do we engage the community? Because public safety really does start there in their community. And I see it as sort of an education.
So I would agree with you, and I feel what we've also learned, so as the politicians, and I would say as City Hall in general, what we've learned through what has been happening in the community is there is an opportunity to meet with the public and educate the public, to bring you along with us as we try to solve these problems. And we do it through increasingly doing it through our communication our channels to share what it is that we are doing, what it is we encourage the public to do. I won't speak on behalf of police, but I have heard police say, I don't think any call is too minor a call. You see how they are triaged, and you see some mechanisms that we're putting in place to address depending on the triage. We encourage people to call if a crime is being committed on your property or to your, bodily harm to you, to your property. You need to call and let the police determine what level of response you received. That data is very important. We need to collect that data. We need to see where the hotspots are in the city and how it is that we can kind of determine what sort of policing needs to be done in that part of the city. So all information is valuable information. So first I would say report things. And we hear so much from the public who says we know the police, how challenged they are right now with resources, and so we don't like to call. I've always heard police say call and let us determine how it is that we say that we will triage response. But as for publicly educating, you don't always know what people don't know. We are learning increasingly what people don't know, and I think that there are lots of reasons for that. We can blame the way that we all get our media. We can blame a lot of things on that, but we know that people need more information. So as a city, we're trying to do what we can, like I say, by getting information out there, by working with our media partners. We have 2 with us today, hoping that they're going to get the information out there. We're going to be putting more communication strategies in place in the new year to get information in your mailboxes. So we will be doing all the education that we can, and then I think it's also incumbent on the public to educate themselves and to dispel if you're on a Facebook page and people are just spewing stuff that you know probably isn't true and that doesn't feel right, that's not accurate, challenge it. Like, please challenge it. Because we can't let all of this stuff go on out there. We have some serious issues that we need to address, and we can't address it in a realm of mistruths and misinformation. So educate each other, do that too, but as your city hall, we will do everything we can to educate.
I have a question here, sir.
Cool.
I guess mine was really questions and commentary on how my life has changed in our part of the city. I've been living on Adele Avenue since 1983. We chose that area because it was close to the pool, it was close to the rinks of the schools, and everything was great. And in the last 10 years, it's gone downhill with people from the shelter and the soup kitchen breaking into cars. I would let my kids walk through the park now, because you walk through the park, there are needles everywhere. It's just, I really don't know what to say. It's ruined the neighborhood. It's ruined the way I look at everything. I have to lock everything down every night. Cars are broken into. When the first snow came by, I could see tracks going up the sidewalk, over to the side of my car, where they obviously tried the door. Luckily, we had it locked. And it's just, it's ruining the city if you don't do something about it quick. And I'm sure every other neighborhood around probably has the same problems, but it's just, my wife said to me the other day, she said, we should sell this stupid house and move somewhere else. So it's not a question, it's just a commentary on how things have gone downhill in the last 10 years. That's all I can say.
I know you're not looking for responses. I can't help but respond and first say, I'm so sorry you feel that way in your neighborhood, because I know where you guys live, and it's a great neighborhood, and there are wonderful neighborhoods throughout our city, and I think we're all feeling impacts to varying degrees. I think when you live in areas that are close to services, feel things differently than areas that are close to other things that are going on. I hope you leave here feeling that we are doing what we can to address what it is that's happening in our city. I think you're hearing, though, that a lot of what we're doing as a municipality is reactive policing. But luckily, we have our partners here who are going to help us to try to get to root causes so that the folks who are doing those things will stop doing them. So that we aren't going to react. Instead, we're providing what is necessary so that people don't feel that they need to do that. And then, for the simple criminal element, if we are able to free up resources to just address crime, then we'll be able to get to those who are just creating, who are committing crime. But we need to get to the root causes of people who are doing that for a bunch of other reasons, for mental health reasons, for addiction reasons, we need to get to root causes so that we can, for me, we need to get to the root causes so that we can, for one thing, separate that out, help those people, so that then policing aren't responding to those kind of calls. That 117 calls for a 16-year-old girl, police should never, ever be responding to those kinds of calls. There should be a system that takes care of that 16-year-old, so that all of that energy that goes into those 117 calls can go into just approaching crime. So that is where we want to get to. We want to get to that balance where it's not 94% reactive policing. Instead, we're able to get ahead of crime so that you feel safe in your neighborhood. That is our goal. That is our goal. I want that for you. I want that for my neighborhood. I want that for all of our neighborhoods. And that's what we're working towards. Stay in your beautiful house.
Crime Stoppers, they're a group dedicated 40 years that get tips, report from the police will say, yeah, there's been, we charge that, pay that tip. That stuff works. Tens of millions of dollars in the last 40 years. And that's just in this province. You bring that across Canada and state. All this, and you know, it's supposed to be a crux set that ran up the other crux. So, I mean, the program works. And if there's something broken in your car and everything's fine, please report it. Because don't assume the police know. If you don't report it, your neighbors don't report it, there could be a group working in your neighborhood. That's very important. And you know, I'm going to say this, is there's wolves in lamb's clothing among the homeless. They're getting blamed for, they create a lot of property crimes and that, just to survive, and they've got some mental health, they do that, but there's people that take advantage of that in their neighborhoods and walk around at night. So if you see something, please report it. Somebody broke in your car, please report it. Even though there's no damage or not taken, please report it. All that damage is back to the police, and they might be able to focus on your neighborhood. Other question?
Thank you. Another question, I want to follow up on, turns out you. I want to do a pitch for, please report crime. So first of all, do not assume it's safe, that it's physically safe or that you're legally within your rights to address crime yourself. Of course, you can invite somebody to leave, but it's not the best idea to confront crime yourself. Secondly, do not worry that because you call the police that means you're going to court, you're going to be a witness, and your name's going to be in the media. That is a choice that remains open to you. You involve the police, they collect the evidence. You may not, you can choose still not to be involved as a witness, so you can report the crime. Third, you can see, yes, police are really busy. They are really busy. But in the between moments, they do get strategic about where they're going to run patrols. And guess where they run patrols? They run patrols where there's crime. They don't just do it on gut instinct or randomly. So if you were experiencing crime in your house, in your neighborhood, and the police don't know that that happened, and 6 other neighbors on your street also decided not to let the police know, they're not coming. So I have the advantage of seeing the picture province-wide. I'm going to tell you that there was an incident over the last couple of years where there was vigilantism, as in a property was burned down in a community in New Brunswick. The community sentiment was, we call the police, there were these thieves, and they never come. We ran the numbers. Guess how many phone calls to police have come from that community in the last 3 years about theft? 0. Police force of jurisdiction in that case had no idea that there was a theft problem in that community because people assumed that the police are too busy and must have other things to do, and of course they do have other things to do. It is not your obligation, but it is in your interest, always, to report crime that you know about. It helps us make us all safer.
Last question, this gentleman has had his hand up for a while now.
Hi, so there's been some, we talked about investment in policing and security. We talked a lot about how people feel safety. What solutions could we kind of come up with where there's like 3 levels of government working together to kind of address the people that are living rough and how we can kind of help them